What happens when one of Hollywood's most loved actors fights back against the mean behavior of late-night TV's most troublesome host? The entertainment world was shocked after Brad Pitt was rudely kicked off the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. What started as a normal celebrity interview quickly turned into one of the biggest fights on TV in recent years. The drama that followed has been huge, with social media going crazy and people in the industry talking about the scary behind-the-scenes truth of the late-night talk show. Before we tell you all the details of this shocking story, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss the real Hollywood stories that the mainstream media won't tell you. Drop a comment below with your thoughts as you watch this story unfold. The evening started like any other filming of Jimmy Kimmel Live. The studio audience was excited, knowing they were about to see Brad Pitt, who was there to talk about his newest movie. The people working on the show seemed nervous though, and few would understand why until later. Brad showed up at the studio acting relaxed like always, saying hi to fans outside and taking time for photos. He had no idea what was about to happen. People close to the show said Kimmel had been in a really bad mood all day, yelling at staff members and asking for crazy things. "He's always been difficult," said one person who works on the show but didn't want to give their name. "But lately it's been getting worse. The person you see on camera is not who he is when the cameras stop rolling." When Brad was finally introduced and walked onto the stage, the audience clapped loudly. He waved casually, giving Kimmel the usual handshake before sitting down. The first part of talking seemed normal enough, with Kimmel asking about Brad's new movie and his experience working with the director. Brad, always professional, answered the questions thoughtfully, sometimes adding his special humor that has made fans around the world love him. The first sign of trouble came when Kimmel suddenly changed topics, bringing up Brad's personal life in a way that clearly surprised the actor. "So Brad, we all know about your messy divorce situation," Kimmel said with a creepy smile. "Want to share any juicy details our audience might enjoy?" The camera caught Brad's face changing. He stayed calm but was clearly uncomfortable with where the interview was going. "Jimmy, I think we both know that's not what I'm here to talk about," he replied calmly. "I'd rather focus on the movie if that's okay with you." Instead of respecting his guest's wishes, Kimmel pushed harder. "Come on Brad, everyone wants to know. You can't expect to come on my show and only talk about what you want to talk about." The audience's laughter became clearly strained as the tension on stage grew thick. Brad shifted in his seat but remained polite. "Actually, Jimmy, that's exactly how these promotional visits work. We agree on topics beforehand, and my personal life was clearly off the table." What viewers at home didn't know was that Brad's team had indeed talked extensively about clear rules for the interview, which Kimmel was now deliberately breaking. A member of Brad's publicity team later revealed that they had long discussions with the show's producers about respecting certain boundaries, especially regarding his family and ongoing legal matters. Kimmel's response was to push even harder, his tone growing more and more condescending. "That's not how my show works, Brad. My audience expects real, unfiltered conversations, not some clean PR script." The tension in the studio was undeniable now. The audience had fallen uncomfortably quiet, sensing the growing hostility between the two men. Brad took a deep breath, clearly trying to save what was quickly becoming a disaster of an interview. "Look, Jimmy, I've always respected you as a host, but this feels unnecessarily mean. There are plenty of interesting things we can discuss about the film, my career, or even my thoughts on the industry, but my children and my personal matters are off limits, and you agreed to that." Kimmel's face clearly hardened. Those who have worked closely with the host recognized what was coming. The famous temper that had supposedly made staff members cry on many occasions was about to make a public appearance. "Don't tell me how to do my job, Brad," Kimmel snapped, his friendly television personality completely disappearing. "You Hollywood types are all the same, wanting to control everything. This is my show, my rules." The studio fell completely silent. Brad, clearly stunned by the outburst, kept his dignity. "I'm not trying to control anything, Jimmy. I'm simply asking for the basic respect of sticking to what we agreed upon before I came out here." During the next commercial break, witnesses reported seeing heated arguments between Brad's team and the show's producers. Brad himself remained seated, scrolling through his phone and deliberately avoiding eye contact with Kimmel, who was huddled with his writers at the edge of the stage. When the cameras started rolling again, the tension had clearly gotten worse rather than better. Kimmel returned with a fake apology that sounded anything but sincere. "Sorry if I touched a nerve there, Brad. I guess some topics are just too sensitive for you." It was at this point that Brad decided he'd had enough. setting aside his usual easygoing nature. He spoke to Kimmel directly. "You know what, Jimmy? I've been in this industry long enough to recognize when someone's trying to create drama at my expense for ratings. That might be how you operate, but I don't have to participate in it." The audience gasped. No one had expected Brad Pitt, known for his professional and friendly public personality, to stand up to Kimmel in such a direct way. But those close to the actor weren't surprised. "Brad is incredibly patient and kind," said a longtime colleague, "but he's also principled. He won't allow himself or others to be bullied, even by someone as powerful in television as Kimmel." Kimmel's face turned red with anger. The camera caught his knuckles turning white as he gripped his desk. "Are you suggesting I'm trying to ambush you for ratings?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. "I'm not suggesting anything," Brad replied coolly. "I'm stating it plainly, and based on your reaction, I think we both know it's true." What happened next sent shockwaves through the studio audience and would soon break the internet. Kimmel, clearly not used to being challenged on his own show, completely lost his cool. The mask of the charming, likable host slipped entirely, revealing the rumored temperament that industry insiders had whispered about for years. Cut to commercial. Kimmel barked at his production team, but the show's director, caught off guard by the sudden command, hesitated just long enough that the cameras captured what happened next. Kimmel leaned forward, pointing his finger toward Brad. "You think you can come on my show and talk to me like that?" he hissed, his voice low but intense enough that the nearby microphones picked it up clearly. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Brad, refusing to be scared, kept steady eye contact. "I know exactly who you are, Jimmy. The question is, do you? Because this isn't how a professional behaves, especially not one who claims to respect their guests." The audience sat in stunned silence as the argument continued. Several people began recording on their phones, sensing they were witnessing something extraordinary. These videos would later spread widely across social media platforms, providing undeniable proof of what happened. "You're done here," Kimmel said, his face twisted with anger. "Get off my stage." Brad appeared momentarily taken aback, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. A brief, incredulous smile crossed his face. "Are you seriously asking me to leave because I wouldn't let you break the terms of our agreement?" "Security," Kimmel called out, signaling to the large men positioned at the edges of the studio. "Please escort Mr. Pitt off the premises." The audience erupted in a mixture of gasps, boos, and confused murmurs. Several people stood up in protest while others began shouting at Kimmel. Brad, ever graceful even in this extraordinary situation, raised his hands in a calming gesture toward the approaching security personnel. "No need for that," he said calmly. "I can see myself out." He turned to the audience, offering them a warm smile that contrasted sharply with Kimmel's obvious fury. "Sorry you all had to witness this. Not exactly what any of us expected tonight." As Brad stood to leave, one brave audience member called out, "We're with you, Brad." This triggered a wave of supportive applause that clearly made Kimmel furious. Brad walked off stage with dignity, nodding politely to the security guards who now seemed uncomfortable with their assignment. As he disappeared backstage, the audience's applause continued, changing into something that sounded clearly like a protest against the host's behavior. Once Brad was gone, Kimmel, clearly shaken but attempting to regain control of his show, tried to play the incident off as a joke. "Well, that was interesting," he said with a forced laugh that fooled no one. "Some people just can't take a little teasing, am I right?" The audience's silence was deafening. The cameras caught several people getting up and walking out of the studio in disgust. According to witnesses backstage, Brad's team was already on their phones dealing with the fallout. Brad himself appeared remarkably composed. "I'm sorry it went down like that," he reportedly told his publicist. "But there's a line, and he crossed it deliberately. I won't sit there and be disrespected just because someone's having a bad day and wants to boost their ratings." Meanwhile, Kimmel's producers were in crisis mode. The show still had another segment to film, but the atmosphere in the studio had turned hostile. Audience members were openly discussing what they'd witnessed, with many expressing shock at Kimmel's behavior. It was like watching someone transform before your eyes. One audience member later told entertainment reporters, "One minute he was the Jimmy we all know from TV, and the next he was this completely different person, so aggressive and mean-spirited. I've watched his show for years, but I'll never see him the same way again." The show's producers attempted to save the situation, offering the audience free merchandise and trying to hype up the next guest, but the damage was done. The remaining segments of the show were filmed in an atmosphere best described as frigid, with Kimmel's jokes falling flat and audience reactions feeling forced and uncomfortable. As Brad left the studio, fans and paparazzi who had gathered outside noticed his early exit and began asking questions. Always known for his connection with fans, Brad stopped briefly. "Sometimes things don't go as planned," he said with his characteristic understated manner. "That's all I can really say right now." But the story was just beginning. By the time Brad reached his car, clips of the confrontation were already circulating on social media. The studio audience, armed with their phones and outraged by what they had witnessed, ensured that Kimmel's behavior would not be hidden or edited out of the official broadcast. Within hours, the hashtag #ShameKimmel began trending, with viewers and celebrities alike expressing support for Brad and criticism of Kimmel. The incident quickly became the top entertainment story across all major news outlets. Former guests on Kimmel's show began speaking out, sharing their own uncomfortable experiences. "What happened with Brad isn't isolated," revealed one actress who requested anonymity. "Jimmy can be incredibly cruel when he doesn't get his way. The difference is that Brad had the stature and self-respect to stand up to him. Many of us just endured it because we felt we had no choice." A former writer for the show supported these accounts. "There's a reason the turnover rate for staff is so high," they explained. "What you saw happen with Brad is the Jimmy we deal with daily. The nice guy act is exactly that, an act." The network executives went into damage control mode, releasing a carefully worded statement that acknowledged the unfortunate incident without placing blame on either party. "We value all our guests and strive to provide a platform for meaningful and entertaining conversations," the statement read. "We regret that tonight's episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live did not meet those standards." Brad's team, meanwhile, maintained a dignified silence, refusing to engage in a public back and forth. This strategic restraint only enhanced Brad's image, with public opinion overwhelmingly in his favor. Industry analysts began speculating about the potential long-term damage to Kimmel's career. "This kind of public meltdown can be career-ending," noted one veteran entertainment reporter, "especially in today's climate where authenticity is valued and bad behavior is no longer swept under the rug." Behind the scenes, sources revealed that Kimmel was furious about the backlash, blaming everyone but himself for the disaster. He reportedly demanded that his team find a way to spin the narrative in his favor and was enraged when they explained that the unedited footage made this virtually impossible. The morning after the explosive confrontation, the story had evolved from entertainment news to a broader conversation about power dynamics in Hollywood and the treatment of guests on talk shows. Media analysts were calling it a watershed moment, with many predicting it would force a reevaluation of the talk show format itself. When the heavily edited official broadcast aired, viewers were quick to notice the obvious cuts around the confrontation. The show attempted to present a sanitized version of events, showing Brad leaving during a commercial break with Kimmel offering a vague explanation about a scheduling misunderstanding. This attempt at damage control backfired spectacularly when compared with the raw footage that had already been widely shared online. "They're trying to gaslight the entire viewership," commented one social media user in a post that quickly went viral. "We all saw what really happened." The network's social media accounts were flooded with negative comments, with many viewers vowing never to watch the show again. Several prominent advertisers, concerned about being associated with such controversy, quietly began pulling their sponsorships pending further investigation into the incident. Brad's first public appearance after the confrontation came 3 days later at a charity event he had long been scheduled to attend. Reporters swarmed him, all asking the same questions about the Kimmel incident. Brad, characteristically gracious, offered a measured response. "Look, everyone has bad days," he said, displaying the empathy that Kimmel had conspicuously lacked. "I just believe that when you invite someone into your space, whether it's your home or your show, there's a certain level of respect that should be maintained. When boundaries are established, they should be honored. That's all I was standing up for." When asked if he had heard from Kimmel since the incident, Brad's expression said it all. "No," he replied simply, "but that's okay. Sometimes silence says everything that needs to be said." Kimmel, meanwhile, was conspicuously absent from his show for the remainder of the week, with the network citing a previously unannounced vacation. Industry insiders revealed that this was no vacation but rather a mandatory cooling-off period imposed by network executives who were furious about the situation. They basically told him to lay low until they figured out how to handle this, revealed a source close to the production. The damage control meetings have been non-stop. There's genuine concern that this could be the beginning of the end for the show. The enforced break did little to improve Kimmel's attitude. According to those who interacted with him during this period, he remained defiant, convinced that he had done nothing wrong and that the public would eventually side with him. This disconnect from reality only served to further concern network executives. When Kimmel finally returned to the air the following week, viewers were treated to a carefully scripted apology that many found hollow and fake. "I want to address what happened last week with Brad Pitt," he began, his tone noticeably subdued. "Things got heated and I reacted poorly. For that, I apologize to Brad and to our viewers." The apology might have been more effective had it not been immediately followed by a series of jokes that seemed to minimize the incident and subtly shift blame onto Brad for being too sensitive. The backlash was swift, with social media once again lighting up with criticism of Kimmel's apparent inability to take genuine responsibility for his actions. Brad, for his part, maintained a dignified silence regarding the apology, neither accepting nor rejecting it publicly. This restraint only enhanced his reputation further, with many commentators praising his professionalism in the face of continued provocation. The long-term consequences for Kimmel became increasingly apparent in the weeks that followed. Ratings for his show plummeted, with many former viewers making good on their promises to boycott the program. Several A-list celebrities quietly canceled their scheduled appearances, not wanting to be associated with the controversy or subjected to similar treatment. Behind the scenes, the working environment at the show reportedly deteriorated further. Staff members, emboldened by the public revelation of Kimmel's behavior, began speaking out about a toxic workplace culture that had existed for years. HR complaints multiplied, forcing the network to launch an internal investigation. "It's like the dam finally broke," explained one crew member. "For years, everyone just accepted that this was how it was, that you had to put up with the tantrums and the disrespect if you wanted to work on a high-profile show. Now people are realizing that it doesn't have to be that way, that no one should have to endure abuse just to do their job." The network, increasingly concerned about both the public relations disaster and potential legal liability, began quietly exploring options for the show's future. Discussions about possible replacement hosts were initiated, though kept strictly confidential. For Brad, the incident ultimately proved beneficial to his already stellar reputation. Public support for his stance against perceived bullying remained overwhelmingly positive. Several talk show hosts, sensing an opportunity, extended invitations for him to appear on their programs to promote his film properly. Brad eventually accepted an invitation from a rival network, where he was treated with notable respect and given the space to discuss his project without invasive personal questions. The interview was widely praised for its substance and professionalism, providing a stark contrast to his experience with Kimmel. The incident sparked a broader conversation within the entertainment industry about the power dynamics at play in celebrity interviews and the often exploitative nature of talk shows that prioritize viral moments over substantive discussion. Several prominent hosts announced changes to their own formats, promising greater collaboration with guests regarding interview topics and boundaries. Industry veterans noted that what made this case particularly significant was Brad's stature. "When someone of Brad Pitt's caliber stands up and says enough, people listen," explained one longtime publicist. He had the power to walk away without fear for his career. Unfortunately, many less established actors don't have that luxury, which is why abusive behavior has been tolerated for so long. As the weeks passed, the incident remained a cautionary tale within Hollywood circles. Kimmel's reputation had suffered what many considered irreparable damage, while Brad emerged as something of a hero for standing his ground against perceived mistreatment. The full extent of the professional consequences for Kimmel continues to unfold, with industry analysts closely watching the network's next moves. Whatever happens, one thing is certain: the entertainment landscape has been indelibly altered by those tense moments on stage when one of Hollywood's most respected actors refused to be bullied, even by one of television's most powerful personalities. What do you think about this confrontation between Brad Pitt and Jimmy Kimmel? Was Brad right to stand his ground, or should he have played along with Kimmel's aggressive questioning? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown of Hollywood's most explosive talk show moment, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell to stay updated on all the real stories behind the celebrity headlines. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.